Dialogic Disciple is an invitation to explore discipleship in dialogue with the world as disciples of the Word. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dialogic Disciple podcast. My name is James Johnson.
And it's Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Elizabeth.
Merry Christmas, James and Dr. Bill.
Dr. Bill, special guest in the studio/office today, here for the special edition Christmas episode of the Dialogic Disciple podcast.
We came in on Christmas morning just to do this.
Yes,
we did, because we love you.
That's exactly right. So today I want to talk about Christmas, obviously, and the 12 days of Christmas that are up ahead of us.
Today is day one.
Today is day one. We oftentimes forget that Christmas is 12 days long. It's a festival. It's not a day. And so today is the kickoff. And traditionally, well, at least from the secular world, today is the only day of Christmas, and tomorrow is a sad Canadian holiday, Boxing Day. But we as Christians, we have a festival, and we got Hanukkah beat. This is better than 8 crazy nights. This is 12 days of Christmas. So I want to start by asking you guys what your favorite Christmas story is from the past, from your childhood, from just that you've had, whether it could be this year, it could be 20 years ago, whatever. But Elizabeth, let's start with you. What's your favorite Christmas story?
The most magical Christmas experience I have ever had, and it shines bright in my memory to this day. I walked down to the house that I grew up in. My room was upstairs. And as I came down the steps, I could peek into the living room, right? Because of the way the ceiling was, right? So you just creep down the first couple steps, and that's where the living room. And I remember coming down on Christmas morning. And of course, in my head, it is like just completely aggrandized. It probably wasn't really like this, but the tree is lit up, it's shining, and there are just like presents piled up around it. And in the center, there is this little doll bed. And so, the 90s, right? American Girl doll was really big. And I got my first American Girl doll. She was sitting there in the little bed by the Christmas tree, and my mom sewed, and so she had made all these clothes for the doll, and they were all like sitting out, and it was just, and I remember running downstairs, and my parents' bedroom was on like through the living room, so I tore down, I saw all this stuff, it's just shining and glimmering, it's magical. I'm 5, right? Like, this is everything you ever wanted, right? And I run into my parents' bedroom and leap on the bed. Santa Claus has been here. Santa Claus has been here. It was incredible. I find out, I'm 32 now, 31. How old am I at this point? I found out a little bit later that my mom had just finished setting everything up.
Oh, really? And got snuck back to bed?
Just made it back into the bed to pretend like she was asleep. And that's when I ran in. So it was just magical.
That does sound magical.
Yeah, it was cool. And that was like the ultimate Christmas, joy, magic, all the things.
Mine's very similar to that. When I was, since Kiefer's come into my life, there's been a lot of great experiences with her. But from my own kind of past, I was 5 as well. And it was, and this, I don't know, this is kind of a melancholy one, but I'll talk about it anyway. It was right after my parents got divorced, and it was the first Christmas that we were having at my grandmother's house, my grandmother and my grandfather's house, and my dad had come to visit from Nashville to Muskogee, Oklahoma.
Wow!
Right? And it was really exciting, obviously, that he was there or whatever. And
that's very cool.
And I just remember, I had at that point I had a little baby brother, and then a brother who's exactly 1 year younger than me. And then my cousins were there, 3 girls, and we were all kind of crammed in this house for Christmas Eve, and we all stayed the night there. And same kind of experience where you come around the corner, into the den, and everything's laid out and everything's sparkling and shining, and we all took pictures around the tree. And I remember I got this stuffed animal, this stuffed elephant, and my brother got the exact same one, so I cut the bow tie off mine. Yeah, and it was my absolute favorite toy for a very long time. I named him Snarfy. After Snarf from the Thundercats, which was a very popular show in the 80s that I watched every day after kindergarten. And I had that thing forever. In fact, I kept it and gave it to Kiefer, Snarfy. Aww. I gave it to Kiefer a couple years ago for Christmas, and she was less impressed with it than I was. She was like, "This is an old stuffed animal," and I was like, "This is very special. And I want you to have this because I had it when I was your age, when I was 5. I gave it to her when she turned 5.
Yeah.
And she was like, thanks, Dad. Do I get anything else? And I was like, yes, there's a bicycle over there.
Oh
You know,
my
like,
God.
I don't have the big gift now, but anyway, both of those in connection. I that was a really special Christmas for me, and I didn't get all the trimmings, but I didn't get all the clothes to go with my stuffed animal. But
You know.
what about you, Bill? What's one of your favorite Christmas stories?
Mine's a little bit more global. I may have never mentioned this to you, but I do have a granddaughter now, Hazley, who is 5 years old.
See, magic.
Magic.
That's
It's a
magic
great
year.
age. And total belief, total faith.
Yes.
But to get to do with her what we did with our children at that age, and
Yeah.
reading some of the exact same books. And when I mean the exact book.
Yes.
From a
Oh,
generation
That's
before.
very cool. Yeah.
And just to share those memories from our past, and we're making new memories for her, and it's just this cool continuation that you see the generations unfolding.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Now, personally, probably another memorable Christmas was not actually what I got, but what I gave. When our children were, oh goodness, in their mid-teens, my son suddenly decided we needed a dog, and an inside dog, and wanted a Yorkshire Terrier.
yeah.
And I began to find these notes around the house from the dog. They'd be taped on my mirror. They'd be found them in the house. But we had told them there's just no way in the world.
Yeah.
Well, Christmas Eve, I went up and got the puppy
Ah.
and brought it back that night. And, of course, it howled the whole evening, but they couldn't hear it. But just
How'd you pull that off?
we had it downstairs, and I
Okay.
told them the alarm was going off at the church, and I had to leave to go see everything was okay.
Oh, nice.
Uh-huh.
And you talk about immediate, instant love.
Yeah.
When both of
That's
them saw that
cool.
dog. And Sam's still with us 15 years later.
That's
That's
amazing.
yeah, wow.
That's really cool. Oh,
Aw.
man. I always wanted a puppy for Christmas. Never got one. Kiefer wants a cat now, which I'm pretty sure she's deathly allergic to because her mother is. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out. But yeah, that's a great story. 5, something magical. Christmas being 5, being a child. When did you guys lose that magic, that childhood magic of Christmas? I know a lot of it's connected to if you believe in Santa or not, but it's not always.
I mean, that's what it was for me. Like, and I did not take it as gracefully as your daughter did. Like you write about in the devotional.
Yeah.
I was probably embarrassingly old when I finally figured it out because my
It's like
mom,
last year.
my mom would just, yeah, basically, right? My mom loves the magic of Christmas, and she did such a good job of just making it so exciting. And, you know, when my brother was around, you know, they did all the effects and oh, I thought you fell out of bed, you know, but it was Santa Claus on the roof, right? And, you know, they do the little paw prints, leave the carrots out for the reindeer and the cookies and all that stuff. My mom just really, she leaned into that a lot.
Yeah.
And so when I got to the place where I was like, oh man, like I can tell something's up. And, you know, I finally asked her, I cried, she cried. It was, you know, it's just that breaking of that innocence and that, you know, the magic. And I mean, my mom still did an amazing job. Like our family likes Christmas and, you know, but it's something about that, you know, you lose the mystery of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, my niece and nephew have now gotten to that age. And so at the last time we were with them for Christmas was like the last time, because I think the older one, Azira, she's 13 now. She was, you know, playing along for her younger brother. And so she didn't really say anything. We all knew she knew, and she knew that we knew that she knew, kind of thing. And it was like this moment of, this is the last time that it's going to be quite this magical, you know,
Right.
because next year it's not going to be there. So I don't know. I mean, like, how do we keep that magic as adults? You know, I mean, we talk about the difference between that season of waiting, of Advent, and then the magic of Christmas and the excitement and the joy that we get to have. So I don't know. What do you think that looks like, that shift? How do we shift that attitude when we don't have that magic of Santa with us?
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
yeah, I guess the Sunday school answer is that, you know, Jesus is the reason for the season.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
of course.
it's not Santa.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
Come on, right? I don't remember how old I was when I found out there was no Santa. Christmas has always been really incredibly important and magical to me. It was a time when I got to spend with my grandparents, you know, for a couple weeks there, and that was always like a reprieve, almost like a sanctuary from the rest of what was happening in my life. And it was always a time of that magic and putting up the Christmas tree with my grandmother, you know, and being able to pick out the Christmas decorations before any of the cousins got there. So I had like a big say in what was going to happen. And then me and my grandmother started watching It's a Wonderful Life on NBC at 8 o'clock on Christmas Eve, which I've done now for like 23 straight years, maybe. I don't know. But I started doing that with her, and then I've continued to do that. I can't wait till Kai's old enough to do that, but I don't think 7's probably way too young for a black and white film. She said the other day
it starts with suicide.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Some dark themes there, right? She said the other day, she was like, Dad, we can watch an older movie if you want, like a black and white movie, like from when you were a kid. And I was like, I was a kid in the 80s. She was like, yeah, were movies like black and white back? And I was like, oh my gosh, come
children.
on, kid. But yeah, but I do remember that. I do remember that there was a sense of kind of loss of innocence, I guess, is the way we talk about that. But for me, the magic, I don't know, was ever really fully into the Santa Claus thing. So for me, it stayed until when my grandmother passed away, 20 years ago or whatever. There was a little bit of loss in the sense because my family didn't get together anymore, right? We didn't get together, like the big family didn't get together for Christmas anymore. And I started doing Christmas with my friends at college or in seminary or whatever, and I just never have really gone back to that. And there's a little bit of loss there for me, I mean, for sure, in that connection, in that childhood memories.
Maybe that's what it is too. Maybe it's a loss of tradition.
Yeah,
and that speaks to the importance of it, right? We have a way that we do things, and when that ends, when that changes, that becomes difficult, and that loses some of the magic. I don't know. What do you think, Bill?
I was just reflecting. I think there's an interval between when you lose some of the naivete and innocence as a child, and it's all about getting. And when you reach whatever age it is that you are mature enough to realize the joy of giving.
Yeah.
And so I do think there is a space there where maybe it's less magical. But I'll again refer to my granddaughter since we all brought her up.
Yeah, absolutely.
To watch her open the gifts. I mean, that's,
yeah.
They're true. I said this in a sermon a week or two ago that there's much more joy to me in giving than getting. Now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you're right. There's a level of maturity that there's like a cocoon period where you lose the naivete, the innocence. And then it's kind of like Christmas, and then you get to that place where you actually be the gift giver, right? And you're a place where you can actually do that, and there is more joy in giving, like picking out the perfect gift and giving that to somebody.
That's a lot of fun,
or even just picking out the right bicycle or doll or whatever for your daughter or whoever, and knowing that the anticipation of having them open that too, right? So it's not even just the moment, but it's like oh man, she's gonna love this kind of thing. Yeah,
that's true. That's making me think about how much joy I have gotten about like having that with my mom. So picking out the gift for my mom. And I think there is a level of reciprocation there, right? Because she put so much energy for so long into making it so magical for me. And then it's like, you get to then have that. It's like, I got to be old enough to go out and find you a gift. And I know you're going to like it, right? Instead of just like the noodle necklace or, whatever the drawing is, right? It's like,
noodle
no,
necklace.
I think like, adult to adult, I think you will actually like this gift, and that's, you're right. Like there's a cool feeling of that.
Yeah.
Well, you get to a point where you are the conveyor, you're the carrier of the traditions.
Yeah.
And what was important to you, you get to bring to the next generation. And I think that's magical.
Yeah.
That is magical. And you mentioned, Elizabeth, that maybe that sense of loss that some of us go through is loss of tradition, and then being able to reestablish or recreate or even create new traditions that go from year to year. That is something that, as we put these devotionals together every year, that's part of the tradition for Christmas for me, and I think it has become for some people here at Northside, and always is grateful for that period of, we talk about it mostly in terms of Advent, a period of preparation and expectation, and now we're here on Christmas Day, and the anticipation's over, and we're shifting now seasons from expectation to arrival, from, anticipation to here we are. How do we talk about that? How do we talk about the shift from Advent to Christmas?
I think part of the battle, and we talked about this in an earlier podcast, is that because Christmas slips so much into Advent, that Advent is no longer just anticipation, preparation, that by the time Christmas gets here, we're kind of Christmased out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
You get to the point where I don't want to hear Elvis sing Blue Christmas.
Right?
Don't want to do more shopping. Don't want to see more advertisements. Don't want to get 5 more LL Bean catalogs in the mail. And
yeah, you're done.
You're ready. Yeah. I mean, at our house, this probably goes against the spirit of the podcast.
That's all right.
Typically, the Christmas decorations come down December 26th.
Is that right?
Yeah. But we put them up, 2 or 3 weeks before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, that makes sense then. I have fears that the tree that I get, for Christmas isn't going to last to December 25th, much less beyond that. But, yeah. So you start a little earlier than I guess some people do as far as Christmas decorations and a lot later than some others do.
So what I'm hearing is that you don't believe in the Christian calendar. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Bill?
Thank you, Elizabeth.
You started it.
And I think probably that's symptomatic of our culture. I really do.
Yeah.
How do you truly enjoy 12 days of Christmas other than, it's the December 26th, now you're looking forward to the football playoffs.
Right. No, that's real.
Which is more the cultural calendar.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I think, and there's other ways to celebrate and participate and observe 12 days of Christmas than Christmas decorations, right? In fact, part of the 12 days could be ceremonially taking down your Christmas gifts. That is the 12th night tradition.
Yeah, 12th night. It's an old English tradition where they take down the ornaments on the 12th night of Christmas.
Yeah.
In the South, it's bad luck if you have your Christmas tree up on January 1.
That's what I've heard.
It's supposed to be done before December 31st.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's because the South don't recognize Christmas or the Christian calendar. And I didn't grow up with it. I didn't grow up with Advent either. So that's the one thing that I have truly, truly appreciated about getting into a liturgical and high church tradition, as a lot of Methodist churches are, and as Northside definitely is getting myself and my view of the world kind of aligned with the Christian liturgy, the Christian calendar. These things have become really important to me as stabilizing and ordering forces for me. We talked about how, God brings order to chaos. This is one way in which I think the church follows suit with that, providing us a way to order time in a way that reflects our commitment and our faith to Jesus Christ. And the 12 days of Christmas for me have become that over the past 5 years or so.
Yeah.
I've really leaned into making sure that I'm doing something every day that observes the whatever day of Christmas it is, and I've looked up stuff, from old traditions or whatever, and say, well, this is what you're supposed to do on day 8, and this is what you're supposed to do on day 5. And I don't, I don't follow that kind of stuff.
5 golden rings.
But I do. I looked up, by the way, just in case we got to it today, I looked up what the price tag would be if you bought every single one of those gifts today in 2022 money. If you just buy them all one time, it's
12 drummers drumming.
It's $46,000 today. If you bought all of them every time they were mentioned, it's about $200,000. So that's an expensive 12 days of Christmas for whoever's getting all of those gifts. True love gave to me. True love must be Elon Musk. I don't know.
Well, I couldn't tell you the date, but I do remember it clicking for me with the Christian calendar. I learned more about it in seminary. Mm-hmm. The church I grew up in practiced it to a certain extent in terms of changing paraments, but it really clicked for me in seminary, and it was like, 12 Days of Christmas. Yeah, the song.
That's a song, right? Yeah.
I've heard about this before.
I have over and over and over again.
Exactly.
I just didn't realize it.
I had that exact same moment, when you're like, oh, that song's about something, actually.
And I do think the Christian year is important. It baptizes time.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it takes a secular calendar, and the church is, December 25th. We took the holiday that was the winter solstice and claimed it for our own. So we do that all the time in the Christian faith.
Yeah.
Halloween and All Saints Day would be another example.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Baptizing time.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful.
And it rehearses a story over and over again every year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things, I like to think it's subliminal and seeps into people's souls, even if they don't go, oh, the paraments changed to purple or green or white.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, I think at Northside we do a fair job of noting the turning of the seasons, even in our contemporary service where there are no paraments that kind of cue that visually. But we may be missing out a little bit on how we educate people about that.
Yeah.
I know Michael Devine is pretty good about not singing hymns, at least in traditional, that announce baby Jesus, right? I think I've heard him say that before.
He tries.
Right? He tries.
He tries.
He tries.
He might get overruled here and there.
Yeah.
But Michael, I think more so than maybe anybody else on staff, is very very tied to the liturgical calendar. Like there's certain things you do and certain things you say and don't say during the season of Advent and during Christmas and then into Easter, and Lent and all those things. But yeah, I bet he gets overruled a little bit there every once in a while. I do think the 12 days of Christmas is a way for me. I think that terminology, baptized time, is really helpful. It does take place over, so you got from you got from December 25th till January 5th, these 12 days, and there's a lot that happens in the secular world, particularly here in the South with the football schedule and everything, and it can be hard, I think. It can be hard, exhausting, distracting, very difficult time to kind of keep in mind that, Jesus deserves 12 days for his birthday, doesn't he? At least 12 days,
right?
Well, I think the other thing it does is gives you some grace time for those things you didn't get around to during December.
Yeah.
I wrote a blog a couple, 3 weeks ago about observing an early Christmas, because every year there are these things I want to do.
Yeah.
To get ready for Christmas and set some time aside and have some margin and do this, and this, and then it's December 25th.
Yeah.
And so in some ways it's a gift. You got 12 more days.
Yeah.
Continue to celebrate Christmas and figure out those things you didn't get to do, how you do them now.
That's a good word, especially for folks out there who are feeling like this season is chaotic and hectic. And, we've talked about this all throughout Advent, but we all do get rushed during this season. And then you do feel like you lose the ability for this one moment, because it has to be this one moment. It's Christmas morning. It's not even like the rest of Christmas Day, right? It's that one moment, And what's funny for me is that moment on Christmas morning, which was very magical as a child, became less so as an adult. What I really find power in now is Christmas Eve. Is the Christmas Eve services that we have here at Northside Church and the other services I've participated in my life. Particularly, I remember last year, one of the things that we did last year, and probably did this year, is when we
did last night.
Well, particularly what I find powerful is when we close out the Christmas Eve service, that last one when it's dark outside with the silent night. Everyone has their candles, electronic candles or real candles, whichever one. It really is incredibly powerful reminder of the sacredness of that moment and what's happened, and what's happened for us through Jesus Christ. Bill, you've been here. This is going to be my
6th year.
Yeah, so this has been your 6th Christmas.
Hard to believe, yeah.
Has there been any moments here at Northside as you've experienced Christmas over the past handful of years that have really stood out, that have made you think something special? Like, I know they're all special, right? But have there been any moments that have really stood out?
Yes, James, there have been. One of those moments was certainly how we did Christmas Eve worship during COVID. We pretty much had a machine going before COVID in terms of how do you do Christmas Eve at Northside.
Yeah.
Sure.
You have the children's services, you have contemporary, you have traditional, you do communion, you have the animals. And for those, especially those 2 years in 20 and 21, when we had to so dramatically shift and did the Christmas experience the day or two before Christmas, and then socially distancing and registering. And on the one hand, it really stretched us to do things differently, but because it got us out of the routine, for me at least, it helped me focus more on the content.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a good word.
That's a really good word. And we see, that's like the theme of a lot of Christmas movies, right? Is that something catastrophic or dramatic happens, and it makes people rethink rethink the true meaning of Christmas or whatever, right? You leave your kid at home, right?
Yeah.
And he's home alone, and now all of a sudden we got to rethink the Christmas. Or terrorists take over the Nakatomi Plaza, and then you got to rethink what Christmas is, right? Right? So or your uncle has lost $8,000, and now you got to rethink the meaning of Christmas. So there's a lot of different things. Or three ghosts come visit you on Christmas, right?
Yeah, there we go.
So that is a common theme within Christmas. I think that it's a little bit of chaos. Maybe a little bit of ordered chaos, if there's a oxymoron for you, right? This little bit of ordered chaos that punctures through our kind of routine, right? So that it reminds us that this thing that's happening, this birth that's happening, is always happening. Like, this is a thing that is an ongoing presence in our life, not just a one-time event. And then it makes this huge promise for what's going to happen in the future. What's going to happen when Christ comes back. That's a powerful. I think the COVID time, we'll say, the COVID days, as I call it, had that effect. I definitely did. I think I had the same kind of experience. That we had to rethink and redo things, and it made you think about maybe more on the content of what's important. Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoy being at the church on Christmas Eve. I was a little cranky about it the first time I had to work Christmas Eve, just to be totally honest. And then the spirit of it really is delightful. I mean, people are just so happy and joyful. And it's that kind of like what you're talking about, James, that, my church growing up, we did midnight candlelight services. And, I remember the first time I went, I fell asleep on the pew because I was young, right? And then you get older and you learn how to appreciate it. And it is a really magical experience. And I think that for me, just like you said, like there was magic and joy in that kind of, not replace, but that took over from that, the Santa Claus Christmas experience. Yeah. And so being here and seeing that and getting to be a part of that and serving people on Christmas Eve, that has meant a lot to me. And it's something I find myself being like, oh, well, no, I do actually want to be here. Like, I don't want to miss that. When you're tired, absolutely. It's a lot of work, but I want to experience this. It's what we do. It's one of the most important things that we've got. So,
but Christmas in particular, and just church life in general, those of us who work in life of the church have to guard against it becoming so normalized and such a part of our job that we don't recognize the meaning. I recall when I was a teenager back from college, I worked at Richway, which neither one of you have probably ever heard of. It was kind of like Target, but worked there for the Christmas season. And everybody ought to work retail during Christmas at some point in their life.
That sounds terrible.
It just squeezes every bit of joy out of it.
I can't even imagine.
And I do, and I will say, maybe confess that I recall at the end of last Christmas Eve, I don't remember how many services we had, but it was a bunch. When we got to the final one, it was like, thank you, Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, baby
that
Jesus.
That was a prayer. Yeah, thank you, baby Jesus. 8 pounds, 2 ounces. That was the last Christmas Eve service because we've been getting you born all day. And so, I think especially for those of us who like the church, it's one thing to come in and worship, and that hour is magical. Yeah. It's another thing when you're doing your 6th service and you're going, this doesn't feel as magical as it did.
Right, yeah.
That's totally true and fair. I do remember, this will be my 8th or 9th Christmas here at Northside, and I do remember, the first Christmas that I was kind of like you. I was annoyed that I had to be here for all day or whatever, and I wanted to be at a different church or whatever for Christmas Eve, but after that first experience, I look forward to it. It is my favorite day of the year as far as here at Northside. It's Christmas Eve. Just people coming in, and you're right. It does you get toward the end of the shift or whatever. And you're like, oh man, we did that a lot, and I can't even bill for you and for pastors in general. It's even more so. But every wave that comes in, every wave of new Northside people come in and bring in that cheer, and try to just absorb that, and you
really
get to see people that maybe you haven't seen in a while. It really is like magical, mystical even. It's really cool.
And that's something too, I think that I appreciate about just the world at this time of year, where I think that there's a little bit of that I guess Christian joy that seeps into the secular world. I mean, a lot of times, you don't hear people saying Merry Christmas anymore. We could do the Happy Holidays. We want to be respectful. But there's just that joy, and people just seem to be a little bit nicer. People are a little bit more jolly, and it's just, I love that. in this time of year. It's I don't know. It makes me have faith in humanity when you see that.
That's good. So our theme for, talking about, you were talking about how this season kind of brings a little bit of that Christian joy into the secular world. Our theme for the next 12 days in the devotional, as we continue through the 12 days of Christmas, is how the Word of God has been planted with us. And one of the things that John reminds us of is that everything that has come into being came into being through the Word of God, which means to me, at least a little bit, that a little bit of the Word of God is imprinted on everything. Right? There's a little bit of Jesus imprinted on everything. So this is a season when we can be reminded of that, right? With that joy that comes out of people, because that is part of what it means to be created in the image of God. And there's something you can't, the world can try to fight it and people can deny it. But at the end of the day, we're all created in that image, and there's going to be a little bit of it that seeps out, right? Even if you say you don't believe in God, it doesn't mean that you weren't created by God, right? And that there's this image of God and this Word of God that seeps out. This is a season where that happens.
Yeah,
and that's good.
It's that you have to help me with the reference, but the whole creation groaning.
Oh yeah, Romans 8 maybe. All of creation groans for the children of God to be revealed.
There we go. That's the one.
Yeah.
If I told you, you wouldn't learn yourself.
See, just like God in the garden trying to teach Adam.
That's right. It's a slow process.
It's a slow process. I'm just always reaching. I'm reaching for the fruit. I want the fruit. Give me the answer. I don't need the lesson. Right. Bill, as we finish up here today, do you have we just went through all the Christmas services and everything, but do you have a final Christmas word or encouraging word for the 12 days of Christmas ahead for the people in Northside?
I'm going to repeat a message I've shared on multiple platforms in different times. In the midst of the Christmas season is New Year's.
Yeah.
And New Year's is a time of resolutions, which in the church we kind of baptize yet again and make it not resolutions but repentance.
Yeah.
We're going to turn away from one thing and turn towards another. And the thing that we've emphasized over and again this fall at Northside is the importance of presents. We talked about Christmas presents throughout the Advent series. I would really challenge our church people, how is the new year going to look different in their lives in terms of how they engage in church?
That's good.
Because we are truly forming habits that are going to affect us and our families.
Yeah.
And if we do not make a commitment to do something different, to be present, to be truly involved in the life of the church, prayers, presence, gives service, and witness, I have real concerns about how that's going to affect people's spiritual health.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage people in the midst of Christmas, as they're watching the Bulldogs on Christmas Eve and making New Year's resolutions, think about Jesus. Think about the church.
Yeah.
God with us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Bill, for joining us today. Elizabeth, thank you. And guys, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Northside.
Each and every one.